Welcome back, Strongman nerds. You get to spend some more time with the Jace Man for 2023 World's Strongest Man coverage. This time we're looking at the finals and my predictions for all events, 1 through 10 places, and the total points, which means we'll know my podium. Now, before we do this, I like to keep things transparent. I don't want to have anything behind the curtain. I like to tell it exactly like it is. So I want to say that I was preparing for this video. I broke out a spreadsheet and I pretended I did like almost like a mock draft, right? I ran the events through my head, assigned their positions and places, and the results are shocking. They are truly shocking. We'll get to those in a minute. But before we get to the results, I want to say what I expected before this happened. So a little bit of spoiler alert, or it is a spoiler alert, but I'm not going to tell you the contents of the spoiler until we get in there. The 5 that you're going to hear that I started with the week and how I expected them to go is not what I anticipated when I ran them through the events. So my suspicions, at the start of the week, I ignored the events and the finals. I didn't even look at the finals or think about how the guys did in the finals. When I made my predictions a couple days ago for my top 5, and I had an idea of how I might sort them, but I was a little bit iffy and I did want to look at the events. But I kind of sorted them thinking to myself, these are my predictions because these are the top performers in the sport today. These are your most consistent performers. And this is, this is just the way it is today. So this is what I expect. I totally discounted the events. Once I looked at the events, I still had an idea. So just so you know, before things started this week, I said, okay, Mitchell Hooper's my guy. He's going to win it all, and I'm not exactly sure what the podium is going to look like right now, but my top 5, in no particular order, is Mitchell Hooper, Tom Stoltman, Alexei Novikov, Pavlo Kordiaka, Trey Mitchell. That was my top 5. Then I started looking at the events, and basically I came out with it looking like this in my mind. I basically said, okay, I think what we're going to wind up having is a podium that has Mitchell Hooper, Alexei Novikov, the defending champion Tom Stoltman in the bronze position, Pavlo Kordiaka, and Trey Mitchell. So that's how I kind of thought they were going to go. Once I told you my top 5, I had looked at the events and said, this is probably how it's going to shake out when it's all said and done. But then I went a step further and I said, let's actually do the events. Let's assign some points and let's see what happens. And so you're going to get an ample opportunity for me to eat a lot of crow and a lot of egg on my face. But let me just tell you, the results are truly shocking. I did not expect this in a million years. But with no further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so when we look at the 10 athletes that we have on here, we've got Novikov, Hooper, Mitchell, Stoltman, Shaw, Rag, Singleton, Schoonwinkel, the other Stoltman, Luke, and Pavlo Kordiaka. A lot of you care about things like nation, so we'll go ahead and take a look at this real quick. Go ahead and bring the country in here. Boomy, boomy, boom. And so once we put the country, there's your countrymen. Feel free to look at them there, okay? Up first was the Fingal Fingers. Now what I'll do is I'll do a little bit of information before we look at the results and how the points came out. The Fingal Fingers was really tough. The fact of the matter is I can't find evidence for most of these guys having done the event, or they've done it as part of a medley where you only do a single finger or something of that nature. There's very, very few guys who have experience doing this. So it's all guesswork. So mainly where my head went originally was like, well, Brian's got a wealth of experience here. Brian's really good at the fingers. These other guys don't. Sounds like a win for Brian, even no matter how I'm saying, hey, his chances are over, basically. Brian will not be on your podium. You saw he's not in my top 5, right? Brian Shaw's not in my top 5, definitely not on my podium. And be that as it may, I thought this could be a win for Brian in the first event, and that's good. That's a real feel-good story. It'll make Brian happy. It'll make Brian's fans happy. And I thought Brian could get one here. After that, it was really speculation. I got on Strongman Archives. I looked through dirt sheets and tried to find stuff. And basically what I came up with, once I crunched the numbers, was a Fingal Fingers that looked like this. Brian Shaw, we'll go ahead and sort the data so that it's top to bottom, easier to read here. Sorry about that. Give me just a second here. Boom, boom, and largest to smallest. Here we go. So once we sort it, we see that Brian Shaw takes the first place points. Alexei Novikov doing what Alexei does sometimes. His body type doesn't say he would be good at this because of his height. Out of the people that I saw experience with, he was actually one of the better ones. So I go ahead and I give him the 9-point second place finish. I give Big Tex Trey Mitchell, Big Country, 8 points here. I give the T-Rex Evan Singleton 7. Tom Stoltman 6. I thought Tom would have been much better at this. I didn't find a whole lot of experience for it, and when I did find Tom doing it, it didn't look that good. So, I thought in my head, I thought, well, this is probably Brian Shaw and Tom Stoltman in either order to take it. Didn't look like Tom was that great at this. Then I got Mitchell Hooper, Pavlo Kordiaka, Luke Stoltman, Jaakko Schoenwinkel, and Matthew Ragg. That's how my 10 places went for the fingers. So we're off and running. And Brian Shaw fans and people everywhere, good story for the sport of strongman. Brian starts out with a win. Pretty awesome if it shakes out that way. It'll make a lot of people happy. But next it was time for the deadlift, right? So we'll go ahead and take a look at the deadlift. Bring this on over here. And again, let's do a little bit of sorting to make this easier. Once we put them in order, this is a deadlift for reps. I gave it to Alexei all day long because basically for the last year plus, a little over that, he's been unstoppable at deadlift for reps. Very, very strong. Not only very, very strong, crazy endurance. And I gave the win to Alexei Novikov. So he starts out with 19 points. He got 9 on the fingers, which he shouldn't have in my head. And right away when I saw that, I started thinking, okay, Mitchell Hooper was my pick going in. Novikov was already overperforming. Novikov should be my man. Novikov should be at the top probably. I should have probably given the trophy to Alexei. That's what I was thinking at this point. Mitchell Hooper comes and gets a second place finish for 9. Nothing wrong with that. Trey Mitchell gets 8. Tom Stoltman 7. Brian Shaw 6. Matthew Ragg 5. Evan Singleton 4. Jaakko Schoenwinkel 3. Luke Stoltman 2. Pavlo Kordiaka 1. Now there's a few of these positions, and almost every single one of these I can make arguments and jostle them around and move them a little bit, but I didn't play that game. I went with the first thing that came to my mind and put them in there when I looked at it. And so that's how the deadlift for reps shook out. So there we are. Up next was the shield carry, right? So when we look at the shield carry, I told myself, again, I noticed one thing I noticed right away was when there was results for the shield carry, the numbers were kind of all over the place, which you would expect, depending upon how the shape of the carry was, what it was made of, metal, stone, a bag, all kinds of different things. And every time it shifted the results quite a bit. So I was really left going, based on the information I see, here's what I got. And I basically did some deductive reasoning plus conjecture and guesswork, and we wound up with the following point orders. Mitchell Hooper, I gave the victory to. He picks up his first win. And maybe some of that was a homer pick because I'm trying to protect my number 1 overall pick. I said he's going to win it all. Maybe that came into play here. And then I gave Tom Stoltman 9 points. I gave his brother Luke 8. And as I looked, it actually looked like, much to my surprise, based on their build and other things, it actually looked like a lot of times Luke does better in these carry events than Tom does. I would not have expected that, but that's kind of what the numbers showed. Brian Shaw in 7, Brian Shaw in 4th place for 7 points. Evan Singleton, 5th place, 6 points. Trey Mitchell, 5 points. Alexei, 4 points. Pavlo Kordiaka, 3 points. Matthew Ragg, 2 points. And Jaakko Schoenwinkel, 1. So that's what it looked like. That's what it looked like after 3 events. And if we sorted this out by points right now, 1924, it looks like Mitchell Hooper, let's see, 16. Yeah, it looks like Mitchell Hooper would be in first. Brian Shaw would be in 23. He would be tied for second. And yeah, Brian Shaw would be tied for second after 3 events. And Tom Stoltman would be in the third position, it looks like. So that's how it would be after 3 events, based on my nothingness, right? It's already interesting to me. And I'm like, oh, good job, Brian. You're doing really well. Much better than I would have thought in my made up, make believe world. Then we go to the dumbbell. We sort these guys, and we see that it looks a little bit like this right here. I gave the dumbbell win to Alexei Novikov because if you've been watching Strongman for the last year, you basically know there's no reason to give it to anyone else. It's Alexei's to lose unless something happens. And so now Alexei goes from a very, very strong position to, again, kind of looking super high on this board. And I am really at this point going, why did I pick Mitchell Hooper? I should have chosen Alexei Novikov. That's what I should have done. Bad, Jace. Bad. That's what I'm thinking. Evan Singleton picks up a 9 here. Pavlo Kordiaka gets 8. Mitchell Hooper gets 7. Brian Shaw gets 6. Luke Stoltman gets 5. Trey Mitchell gets 4. Tom Stoltman, 3. Jaco Schoonwinkel, 2. And Matthew Ragg, 1. So that's what it looks like after 4 events. All right. Then it was time to go into event number 5. We're talking about pulling vehicles now, man. And once we did this vehicle pull, we put the points on the board. We went over here. We sorted them. And came out like this on my made-up make-believe world. Pavlo Kordiaka takes the win. I was surprised. But again, I used Strongman Archives. Originally, I thought it was going to be either Brian Shaw or Alexei Novikov taking the win. By body type, by experience, by all of that, I really thought I had Brian at the top. That's really what I was thinking. And then I thought, Alexei doesn't have the right body type for this. But if you look at what he's been doing with pulls, it's really, really well. So I thought, okay, it's probably going to be Shaw, Novikov, and then I have no idea. I've got to really take a look at recent history and things. And I was shocked to see that Pavlo Kordiaka is a pulling monster, at least in recent history, with a small sample size. And so I gave him the win. And I said he probably has more left in the tank at this point. He's sort of been underperforming. The first 3 events weren't that great. Brian's probably getting tired. I'll go ahead and give it to Kordiaka. Then I give Brian 2nd place. Novikov I gave 3rd place. I gave Mitchell Hooper 4th place. I gave Tom Stoltman 5th place. I gave Trey Mitchell 6th. Evan Singleton 7th. Schoonwinkel 8th. Matthew Ragg 9th. And Luke Stoltman 10th place. So that left us only with the Atlas stones. And before we even looked at them, we knew how some of that was going to go, right? We know who we're saying wins these stones outright, right? So we go ahead and take a look at the Atlas stones. I'll get them sorted. And our first overall pick, our number 1 seed in stones, basically looks like what we would expect. We give the 10 points to Tom. And so I think the best 3 stone lifters in the world basically are Tom Stoltman, Brian Shaw, and Trey Mitchell. I let Trey Mitchell pass Brian here for the 2nd position because I thought younger, again, Brian's probably getting tired, a bit worn out, a little more left in Trey's tank, younger guy. So I'm giving him the 2nd position. I'll still give Brian 8 points because he's still a stone master. I gave Mitchell Hooper 7. I gave Pavlo Kordiaka 6. Evan Singleton 5. Novikov, really good at stone sometimes, really poor at stone sometimes, up and down. I thought he faltered this time. And I think maybe I did that because, again, I'm trying to preserve and protect my original prediction. Hooper 1, Novikov 2. I needed Hooper to gain some ground here. So I bet subconsciously that's what I did. So Novikov slips and only gets 4 points. Luke Stoltman gets 3 points. Matthew Ragg 2, and Schoonwinkel 1 again. But that's all the events. So what does that mean? Well, it means now it's time to add up all the points and see what happened. So basically, we took a look at the total point board, and there's your full point distribution once we add everything up. But once you give the points, you need to see where that ranks them and what your podium looks like. I did this. I went here, and much to my surprise, when I added everything up, the thing that I said I didn't know how to predict things. I didn't know what to expect. I told people in my live streams who were cheering for Brian Shaw, I said, "Hey, you're cheering because you're a fan. That's not going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, but I know Brian Shaw will not win the 2023 World's Strongest Man. That I can promise you." But then when I added the points up there and went event by event by event, I had Brian Shaw on top, squeaking by with a fifth World's Strongest Man title with 1 point above both Mitchell Hooper and Alexei Novikov. Hooper 45, Novikov 45, Brian Shaw 46 points. Reigning defending champion Tom Stoltman out of contention, 41 points in fourth place. Trey Mitchell, fifth place, 39 points. Pavlo Koriaka, who I had basically way up there in my top five and rated above Trey Mitchell, he finished down here in seventh place. So once I went event by event by event, took a look at how they've done in recent events or recent times doing those particular events, the level of competition they were up against, this is what I came up with. And I am shocked. I'll also say this. I counted Brian out. Shame on me. The event hasn't happened yet. Brian hasn't done this. So it's not like he's your 2023 World Strongest Man. I'm still going to count him out even after I did this. And I hope he makes me look like an even bigger idiot than these predictions will make me look like. I'm still going to say this is not what's going to happen. I don't care what my thought experiment was. I don't care what my predictions are. Brian Shaw's not winning the 2023 World's Strongest Man. But, again, all things being equal, points on paper, award it, mock draft out there essentially. I got Brian Shaw winning the 2023 World's Strongest Man. I am shocked. What do you guys think? Blast me in the comments. Or say, hey, I told you so, even though it hasn't happened yet. Since if you're a Brian Shaw fan, go ahead and say, I knew it all along. But I'm shocked. I'm shocked. And now all we have to do is actually see the competition play out. I'll see you guys soon. It should be fun no matter what happens. Later.